Hello everyone and welcome. Once again, it's time for the differences and spoiler video for the second to last time of this season before at some point hopefully we're gonna get a second season, who knows when. But for now, of course, once again there will be spoilers of the Japanese and the North American version of the Magia Record game. If you are okay with seeing those spoilers, then let's head right in there. Starting off, we start out with the team once again talking to Toka just as they have arrived at the Memory Museum. And Toka, of course, mentions that she doesn't remember either Iroha or Ui, and she did mention, at least at the end of this, that she went separate ways with Nemu, which we know is a fucking lie. So I guess looking back at it, we already, since we know the rest of the story at this point, because of course in this review we're going to talk about all the future story as well, we know that she's working very closely with Nemu, meaning that she's straight up lying right here. But this is kind of par for the course with Game Toka, because Game Toka is even more of an asshole than she is in the anime, but we'll get to that later. Starting out though, next up, we see that they, for some reason, they eat together. They just have a table appear and then they sit down and have cake. Why? I don't know, because they just go into the next scene right after this, but okay. We see then that Yachio is still being sad at home, and she remembers the past about her time with all her past dead friends and all her current friends who, if she doesn't do anything, might also wind up dead, and so she goes and heads out. Back at the lecture though, Toka then starts talking about what she wants to talk about, and she starts off by mentioning 3 medical girls, A, B, and C. Don't worry, we're gonna get more letters of the alphabet involved, and we're not gonna name any names because we're gonna just have to deal with this now. She mentioned that these 3 Meguka, they fight a witch, which by the silhouette that we see seems to be Rebecca. And then they mention that C died. And then the question becomes, why did C die? And Tsuruno has this idea, or it probably has to do with the soul gem. In the game, Tsuruno is a lot more of an idiot savant in that she just randomly knows some really important stuff. But overall, she's actually not that smart most of the time. I mean, she kind of does the unga bunga with Felicia a lot, but okay. So Toka then explains that yes, indeed, that was the reason why, and she says that if you have your soul gem shattered, you do die because the soul gem is the location of your soul, that is your soul. And in order to demonstrate this a bit more, she then has like Sana's soul gem presented to her, and she like shocks it a bit, and Sana experiences the pain kind of similar to how it happened to Sayaka. Isn't it weird that Kyubei did that to Sayaka and now Toka did that to Sana? It's almost like it sounds like Toka is being likened to Kyubei, but we're gonna get to that later because I have quite a bunch to say about that. We do at this point see that also Iroha remembers Doppling, and she kind of connects that to that being her soul. And Toka then goes on a bit about the philosophy of what it means to be a human, and if you change your body, are you still a human? Toka does this a lot, where she brings up random science to just bullshit her way through. There's nothing smart about what she's saying. It's just like she has seen some documentary about humanism on some television broadcast, and then goes, oh yeah, I'm just gonna repeat what I heard, and that's gonna make me look smart, even though it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Because magically separating the soul from your body is not really something that I would see as in like a modification, like healing a broken bone with a cast, or like having a cast help healing your broken arm or whatever. So yeah, no, she's full of shit. We then cut back and see that Yachio is somewhere dining with Team Kamore as she talks about the museum, because in the game, of course, she doesn't know where the museum is yet. So, the museum, sorry. And she asks Team Kamore, they tell her where it is, and then Momoko also hints that she is going to tell Kaede and Reina the truth about the entire Metal Girl system. We then jump back to the lecture where it continues, where we now have, with C being gone, we only have A and B, but they are joined now by D, E, and F. So now we have Team A, B, D, E, F. And they fight another witch, which from the silhouette we see is Zenobia for some reason. I guess I told you earlier that they kind of reuse a bunch of witch models later in the game because they kind of didn't feel like creating more new witches, unlike the anime, which of course only shows that like 10 times as much effort has gone into the anime, because in the anime it's a lot more effort to create an entirely new witch, have their barrier, their labyrinth created, their witch symbol, have the name for it, to have a fight against it where it has its own attacks, where it has their own special minions. You need to create all of this and then animate it and have all this sort of work, while in the game all they needed to do was draw a singular fucking image for a new witch, and they didn't do it either time, so they reused Rebecca, they reused Zenobia, because they couldn't draw a new image, while in the anime they were like, let's just create an entirely new witch, labyrinth, minions, fight, sounds, everything that you can imagine, do it, and we're gonna animate an entire fight out of that. So yeah, a lot more effort in the anime, but in here, no, we're just gonna reuse Zenobia, lol. So at the end of that fight, F witches out. Whoever is F, who are all of these characters, doesn't matter right now. The team then figures out what witching is, why witches even appear, because they come from magical girls, and they find out all of this truth. And Felicia then has this little moment where she remembers her past about her parents having been killed by witches, which apparently was another magical girl, how she has been fighting witches all her time, and she kind of thinks about, oh my god, have I been killing magical girls this entire time? Some heart-hitting stuff right there. Then cutting back to Yachio is on her way to the Memory Museum as she randomly goes, wait a second, brainwashing! And so she kind of figures out that there's gonna be brainwashing. Good job, Yachio, you figured out the foreshadowing. Tuka then, back at the Memory Museum, wants to show something else, and she uses a grief seed to cleanse Felicia's soul gem, kind of against her will. And Tuka then mentions that, yeah, it's because they're both kind of the same, and because they're the same thing, they're compatible, kind of like in biology. And then she spouts a whole bunch of more pseudoscientific bullshit about biology and how they're compatible because of that, because how they're so similar to each other. And then she also mentions that witches are kind of like zombies, which they're not. They're not really like zombies at all, but I guess the writers couldn't figure out a better way to communicate this either, so they had this apparently really smart character make a really stupid comparison, but okay. Moving on with more of the lecture though, we then see that a year later, B is despairing and doppels because he couldn't handle all of this, and what happens then is that Toka mentions that the doppels that happened here in this case, or doppel in general, is the work of the Magus. They have actually created the doppel system. And of course the team, after having heard this entire lecture, kind of goes, yeah, but we don't really trust you because you could just be lying to us. So after all this time, after everything that Toka has told them, they kind of don't believe it, which kind of makes me think, what was the point of this entire lecture now if Toka kind of should have seen this coming, that they're not going to believe it? But don't worry, because we've got a way out of this. Mifio appears, and they have a contingency plan for this, and their plan is they get taken to the rumor. Suddenly, Sana goes, are we getting brainwashed? And both Toka and Mifio, they look at each other like, yeah, and then the team gets brainwashed. What happens is they just randomly get trapped in a labyrinth, and they want to be let out. And Mifio and Toka go, no, we're not letting you out until you've joined us or die. And then everyone falls asleep and gets taken into a book of memories that Mifio has. So yeah, definitely good on them. All the moral ambiguity that we've built up over the last 5 or even 6 chapters, all that moral ambiguity, is the Magus evil? Are they even evil? They haven't killed people yet. I mean, Alina is evil, but it seems like Mifuyu is kind of working with them, and she's very reasonable, and the feathers themselves, they're not really evil people, they're kind of pushovers, but they don't have anything evil about them. The Nis are very good and precious people who only want to do good, so maybe there's some moral ambiguity here. No brainwashing, let's go! So the team gets trapped inside the memory and is about to be brainwashed. But at this time then Yachio arrives and confronts Toka, and Yachio just sort of wants to enter the memories as well, and Toka initially has this idea that, wait a second, Yachio is going to try and help her friends, but then she also realizes Yachio is going to get brainwashed if she enters the memories. So Yachio, she just lets Yachio enter because she thinks, yeah, whatever, she's going to get brainwashed. So if you want to be brainwashed on purpose, yeah, whatever, go for it. So Yachio enters the memory museum as well, also gets sucked into the book of memories of Mifuyu, and in the meantime we then cut back to Momoko, who once again hints that she's definitely going to tell Kaede and Reina the truth, after having hinted at it for like 5 times already. Now, back at the memory museum, or not just yet, but Momoko actually starts telling the truth for once, and basically we cut away from this though, after having hinted at it for so long, because we kind of get the same story that Toka told the team, and she just tells the exact same story to Kaede and Reina now. And back at the memory museum, we are now in the memories of Mifuyu, where Iroha awakens in those memories, and it's something different than the anime. In the anime, it was very obvious that Iroha was standing on the sidelines with her arms crossed, like watching the memories as they unfold with Mifuyu next to her, like the real Mifuyu. We also had the memory Mifuyu in front of her. But in the game, all of this is a bit weird. Where in the game, what happens in the memories is that Iroha is now suddenly a real character in that story. So other characters in the memory interact with Iroha, which sounds really dumb because it's a memory, it's something that has happened, it's like looking into a video of the past, but suddenly these characters are now interacting with Iroha, who is only visiting these memories, which makes all of this stuff really confusing sometimes when Iroha says something important, or when another character says something important to Iroha, because in the actual memories, in the actual ways things happened back then, of course Iroha wasn't around, so what's the continuity here? We don't really know, and I don't think the writers care either. So instead, we just see that Iroha now interacts with them as if she was part of the team the entire time, and Team Mikazuki Alpha with Kanae around, of course, they hunt a witch that has been going around, and they fight the witch in the witch labyrinth, which is called Rebecca, because, yeah, like I said, we're reusing Rebecca. But as it turns out, the witch is too strong, and Kanae has to fight head-on, has to fight the witch head-on to let the rest escape, or like do some sort of other maneuver or something. It's just that they're in a bad situation, and Kanae just randomly goes, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna die. And she has this entire farewell speech. Like, I absolutely fucking hate when characters go, I am gonna go die now, and then have this entire speech about, oh, we had such a great time together and I really liked hanging out with you guys, but I need to go die now. It's just so fucking stupid. Like, when has that ever happened in real life? When has that ever happened in real life? Like in war, like just imagine in war when you have like multiple people at the front lines, and one of the guys just randomly goes, guys, I'm going to have to die now. It was really nice fighting with you, and then takes 2 steps ahead and gets shot. It takes 2 steps ahead and gets shot in the face. Like, what? This is so fucking stupid. But yeah, she has this entire emotional farewell speech and then dies. Because of all of this, of course, the team then figures out the location of the soldier and what all of this means, and we have this little scene where Yachio keeps Kanae in her heart by remembering the mug and, of course, Kanae herself, which, of course, as we know, is a reference to Yachio's real magic, because, spoiler, I can talk whatever the fuck I want because it's the spoiler section, Yachio's real magic is not being a survivor. Yachio's real magic is not letting other people die for her sake. We actually get something like this in chapter 9, where for some reason, as Yachio is fighting Holy Mummy and completely destroys Holy Mummy, because Yachio is way better than Mummy, she actually, for some reason, feels the strength of Kanae and Mel coursing through her as she fights Holy Mummy. And this is actually a real magic. Basically, Yachio gets stronger whenever her friends die, which sounds really sad, but that is kind of the case. I mean, I think the official way it is put is that she can, like, carry forth the wishes of her friends even after they have died. So she sort of, like, takes on their strength as they die and continues to fight for a better future. That's kind of like what her magic is. And yeah, we kind of get a little bit of foreshadowing here as she mentions that she's going to remember her dead friends. And like I said, we're going to get like more of a hint and then a confirmation in like it's actually chapter 8. Chapter 8, I think in chapter 9 or something as well, and then in chapter 10 as well. But yeah, moving on, now that we have this chapter completed, we see that the team A and B, they're not A and B anymore. This is something I also didn't like about the memories, where they kept going with like A and B, girl A and B, and then girl D and E and F join, and C dies and F dies, and just use the names. I mean, we're gonna see the memories anyway, so just the fucking names. So as the team has grown to 5 people again, we see that, most importantly, Banbanzai has taken 50th place in some contest. Wow. Meanwhile, Mel is very, very happy about having a lucky day. Of course, the team then goes out and hunts another witch, and this witch that they're gonna fight is, it's Zenobia. They reuse Zenobia. But before they can actually fight the witch, Tsuruno has to go away because she needs to help out at Banbanzai, help out the restaurant, and the rest goes in, fights Zenobia, but the witch is too strong, which is kind of interesting because, like I said, they reused Zenobia. I don't think this witch is actually supposed to be Zenobia. I don't think the other witch is supposed to be Rebecca. It's just they didn't want to make another model, so they reused the model. So back, like in universe, this was not Zenobia, this was another witch, but seeing it as Zenobia is kind of weird because Zenobia is the weakest witch of all of the witches we've ever fought. But yeah, apparently this witch is super duper strong. And because it's so strong, they need to do like a special pincer attack with Yachio in the front and the rest coming from the back and doing like a backstabbing attack. But Yachio gets into trouble, and Mel does the sacrificing to basically help Yachio stay alive as the witch runs away. We then see that Mel does indeed witch out, as she says that she had indeed have a lucky day, and it doesn't really get explained right here. I think it gets explained either in the Hereafter event story or in either of Mel's or Kanae's Magical Girl story. No, maybe Mel's. Actually no. But the thing is, the lucky thing that happened here is that Mel was able to protect Yachio. That's actually, I think this gets told later in the same chapter, but yeah, the lucky thing is that she was able to protect Yachio's life, and that's apparently really lucky. So moving on at this point, we see the scene again with the mugs, and we see another mug added to the list as Yachio also keeps Mel in her heart and gains her power. And with this, we see that the team is now fighting among each other. They're despairing, and off-screen afterwards they split up. We then see that Mifuyu over time is also despairing more and more, which also causes her to grow weaker and weaker, and ultimately she does grow bitter and doppels. And right after this doppel happens, in the memory, we see that Toka does appear in front of Mifuyu and tells her that it was her that created this doppel, and that she should join her in trying to basically spread this doppel system across the entire world. That's basically the idea. And then they sort of turn to Iroha in the memory and go, now that you have heard all of this, don't you want to join us? Come join us, Ivanet Nioi, and all that sort of stuff. So after having seen that, we sort of cut back to some in-between place, and this is something that we could possibly see in the next episode as well. We probably will see some of this, but I'm going to go over this very, very quickly, because this is still part of the same part. Like, each chapter has multiple parts, and this part is still going at this point for like 2 or 3 more minutes. So I'm going to very quickly go over this. We see that Tsuruno then blames herself for what happened to Mel. Felicia gets angry for having fought witches and, in extension, magical girls in the past. Sana doesn't really care too much, but then Toka says, if you join us, you could be freed from your fate of being invisible or something like that, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Even if the Magus was successful, none of this would ever happen, so they just sort of bullshit their way into Sana joining somehow. I mean, we know that they're getting brainwashed right here. Like, right now we see this memory scape that they're in, basically brainwashing. So they all kind of are on the fence if they want to join, although we know they will join because they're getting brainwashed. And Iroha at this point actually manages to break free and refuses to join because he doesn't want to protect witches. And because she has refused to join, she actually breaks out of the brainwash and wakes up in the memory museum next to Yachio, who is still sleeping. Don't do anything bad to Yachio, Iroha, I know it. And we basically just end on cutting back to Team Kamode, where Kaede and Reina are now really, really sad. And that's the end of this part. Wow. Yeah, we see that a lot of the same stuff happened in the game that happened in the anime, but let's very quickly go over the anime and see if there's a bunch of juicy stuff that we can find in the anime in reference to some of the stuff from the game. So, as we start the anime episode, we see that Yachio remembers Kane and Mel at home. And an important detail, I mentioned this in my analysis of the ED of the ending that I did after episode 2, where I mentioned that Yachio was wearing black whenever she felt sad, and other times she maybe wore other colors like white, for example. But here we see she's wearing black again. So I'm not gonna tell myself that I'm on point with saying that when she's wearing black she's being sad, but yeah. And the memories of Kane and Mel basically tell her to go and help out the team, and she doesn't want to do it, but then does it anyway because she just wants to help out other people. She doesn't care if they're her friends or not. So back at the Memory Museum, we see that Mifuyu and Toka appear in front of the team, and Toka doesn't remember either Ui or Iroha, though she focuses more on Ui, not remembering Ui in the anime. And as Toka jumps around, we see 3 items. We see a page with a quill, which I think it was, or some writing utensil, which of course is supposed to represent Nimue, who is kind of like an author, a writer. We see a glasses, probably supposed to represent Toka because she's smart and glasses make you smart. And we also see a beret. There's different kinds of beret. I know what this specific... Actually, I don't know what this specific type is called, but there's something that's very similar to this, which only has a German name, Baskenmütze. I don't actually know if there's like an English word that is like a one-to-one translation of that word. But yeah, it's kind of like this artsy-fartsy beret that like artists have. I'm pretty certain this is supposed to be symbolic for Ui. Not just because the other 2 are symbolic for Nemu and Toka, but also because Ui is kind of a free spirit, and these kinds of hats are usually either associated with the military, but not in this case, or with free spirits, like Ui is. And Ui also, in her magical uniform, also has like a fancy hat, a fancy little artsy-fartsy hat. So I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be about her. And then as Toka jumps around a bit more, she mentions that an Uwasa might carry Udoha away, and we see a silhouette in the background. And I've been looking around for the silhouette and asking people, and I can't really figure out what exactly it's supposed to be. At first I thought, okay, maybe, wait a second, it could be an Uwasa, but no Uwasa looks like that. So I thought about doppels. Could it be someone's doppel? And then I also noticed that this doesn't look like anyone's doppel, at least none of the people that are in this scene. Like, this is not Toka's doppel, this is not Nemu's doppel, this is not Ui's doppel, this is not Mifuyu's doppel, or any of these other characters' doppel. This is none of their doppels. So, what is this? So then I thought again, okay, wait a second, but with the Uwasa, we know that at least the commoner's horse, the Uwasa at the Seon Shrine, the design of that was changed quite a lot. Like, it was very, very different in the anime to what it was in the game. So it's possible that this Uwasa, the silhouette in the background, is actually the silhouette of the memory curator, the Uwasa that guards the memory museum. It just looks very different, like extremely different. Just the silhouette, if you compare the silhouettes, they're like, oh my god, like there's like nothing similar between these 2, but it's still possible. Or it's just nothing, and they just painted whatever. We don't know. So then Toka starts the lecture, and we see once again this little paper cutout of the match girl, because Toka is the match girl. Woo, symbolism. The OP starts, and after the OP we see that once again Momoko is outside talking to Reina as Kaede appears as well. Jumping back to the memory museum, we see that Toka starts the lecture and asks about what happens when a soul gem breaks. So they do figure it out, or actually they don't figure it out. Toka just tells them. Like in the game, Tsuruno, like I said, is kind of an idiot savant. She just has really smart thoughts sometimes. But in here, she's totally wrong. Well, not totally wrong, but she's kind of wrong, and she doesn't really understand what's going on. And until Toka just tells them. And we then get back to Reina embracing Kaede, and she's very happy that she can see Reina again. But back at the memory museum, we see that Toka then tells them about the location of the soul gem. Of course, all of this is a lot shorter than it was in the game. In the game, reading through these 2 parts that I've told you about earlier, if you read this at like auto speed, I think it's almost like an hour. It's like a ridiculous amount of time that they spend on all of this. But in here, they go through it a lot faster, which is alright, because I mean, a lot of the people who watch this have probably already seen the Madoka Magica original anime, so nothing really too new. An important thing that happens though is, well, first we're going to go with the not so important thing, which is that we see multiple soul gems in the background. As far as I know, these don't belong to specific characters, and way later in the episode you also see some more soul gems falling through some water. These are also not specific character soul gems. As far as I know, they're just random soul gems. Like 1 or 2 of those might be of characters we know, but for the most part, no. The important bit is, though, there's at some point, as Toka is talking to the team, we see Kyubei's eyes appear on the projector behind Toka. And we get this quite a lot, that Toka is being likened to Kyubei, so I'm not going to talk about it, because this was also happening in the game, that Toka was likened to Kyubei. And a bunch of people, I'm pretty certain anime-onlys, also picked up on this, where they, at some point, a lot of anime-onlys also went, she's being a lot like Kyubei, isn't she? Which is something that is not that hard to pick up on, and yes, the game and the anime tries to get this connection between the two, because they're both hyperlogical beings that show no emotions and are trying to create some sort of system for the benefit of their own personal goals. For Kyubei, it's not just his own personal goals, it's the goals of the entire universe. So Kyubei is shown to use that to be more utilitarian for the entire universe, which does have its pros, which does have its obvious cons. And Toka is saying the same thing. I'm doing this for the betterment of the entire planet Earth, for all magical girls to live here, and in extension also humanity, because if magical girls are doing fine, humanity as a whole is going to do fine as well, because magical girls are just so important. There's something interesting, not just interesting, there's actually something really, really important about all of this, is that I kind of feel like the writers wanted to pat themselves on the back, being like, oh my god, look at, we're going to show people why Kyubei's ideals are bad by creating a character who acts very similar to Kyubei, and then we're going to show that this character is evil and therefore Kyubei is evil. But the thing is, you have a lot of abstraction and twisting that happens going from Kyubei to Toka, to what Toka does. And if you take a look at what Toka does and say, okay, if Toka does evil stuff, you can't just follow the line back and then go, therefore Kyubei is evil, because there's a lot of very important differences between the two that get lost along the way. So I've already mentioned one thing. Kyubei does it for everyone. He does it for the entire universe. Okay? While Toka specifically has this sort of superiority complex almost, or this kind of fascist, almost racist idea, where she actually mentions, I don't think she does it here, I think she does it in chapter 7, where she mentions that it's okay that if normal people die, because us magical girls are a lot more important. Magical girls are the only thing that matter. We actually, normal people, they can go die if they want to, I don't give a shit. While Kyubei specifically mentioned also that this is also for the betterment of mankind, because if the universe keeps existing, that is also good for mankind. And Kyubei didn't try to specifically kill humans just because he felt like it. He wanted to gather energy by doing something that could potentially, and in most cases does, harm humans. That's kind of a side effect. It's more like an unwilling side effect that happens. If there was another way of doing it, Kyubei would use another way. We can be sure of that, because Kyubei is just about pure logic. And if pure logic shows you that there is a way that leads to a greater gain for everyone, that's the thing, Kyubei wants the greatest gain for everyone. But as he found out, this is the best way of gaining the greatest gain for everyone if just a handful of people die to save the entire universe. That is the greatest possible gain for the lowest amount of loss. That is what he calculated. I know people are going to be in the comments and be like, no, that's not true. It's debatable if this is really the truth, but, and this is what I want to go with, the medium itself, the anime, Manaka Magica, all the other stuff that we find, everything tells us that this is the truth. You can say, I don't believe the anime, I don't believe the manga, I don't believe all of these sources that tell us that this is the case. You can do that. You can just choose not to believe the medium. But I'm here talking about what the medium tells us, what the medium talks to us about. What does the medium say? In this case, the medium says that Kyubei is so hyperlogical that he knows this is the best way to do it. Okay, so let's just continue talking about this by trusting what the medium says. Of course, you can argue about this. Anyway, to bring it back, the important part about all of this is why I brought all of this up is Toka does not do that. We can very easily see that there are better ways, more efficient, more successful ways for Toka to go about all of this, to save just as many people with less risk, with less people getting involved, with less people getting hurt, with less people dying. We know that's the case. Why do we know that? We know that just the transformation to a doppel already gathers energy. We know that rumors can gather energy from people without killing them. That's what the Sean Shrine rumor did, for example. There's other rumors that do that as well. What other rumors were there? There was the Misery Water. The Misery Water also gathered energy without killing people, especially in the anime we see this, where if you just keep drinking the water, nothing bad will ever happen to you. In fact, good things will happen to you. So you actually end up on a positive, you just have to keep drinking the water. So we see that there are ways of gathering energy that don't hurt people. So we know that such ways exist. At the same time, can you do it without getting people killed? And also, more importantly, how efficient are these ways? And how likely are these ways to succeed? The problem that comes with actually hurting people, and more importantly with actually killing people and doing evil things to people, is that you create enemies. This is something that happens in this entire chapter, is because the Magus show to everyone, to the entire team Mikazuki, that they're doing evil stuff and they are okay with hurting people, they're okay with brainwashing. In a later chapter, in chapter 7, we see they're okay with killing people. The very first thing that happens in chapter 7 is Toka says, let's commit mass murder. She just says that, and then in this entire chapter, she tries to kill a buttload of people. She tries to kill thousands of people for energy. Now, when you are this fucking evil, what happens is you create enemies. And in this case, the enemies that they created were Team Mikazuki. They made an enemy out of Iroha and Yachio, and I've already talked about this before, but here's the thing. Iroha and Yachio, they can just walk through the city, they can go to other people that they know, and the thing is, Yachio is a veteran that people trust. Kanagi is a veteran that people trust, and Kanagi and Yachio are in close contact. Momoko is also a veteran that people trust. Yachio and Momoko are also in close contact. All of these three are in close contact with each other. There's also other veterans like Hinano, who's also maybe not that close in contact, but who also trust these other people. They can very easily band together, and now you have the biggest veterans, minus Mifuyu, of the entire city, going around telling people the Magius kill people, the Magius brainwash people, the Magius are trying to get us all killed for something that probably won't work. If they go around and tell everyone that, here's what's going to happen. You will have the entire city, hundreds of magical girls, rising up in protest, rising up in a rebellion against Magius, and Magius is getting toppled. Good fucking job. Doing evil stuffs to reach a big ideal is not that simple. Guys, you can't just say, oh, but the evil route is faster, therefore, since I'm a logical person, right? I want to help everyone, but I need to do some evil stuff to do it, so I'm just gonna do the evil stuff, right? That's gonna be the best way of reaching my goal because I'm a logical person and logic demands that I do that. No, it's actually not logical at all, because like I said, if you create hundreds of enemies, hundreds of powerful enemies that band together against you, your plan is failing. That's not logical, that's not smart, that's not intelligent, that's being really fucking stupid to do that. The moral ambiguity that Magius had was the perfect cover. Moral ambiguity makes people hesitant to fight you. That is also what happens in real life, where people try to make things that they don't want other people to be angry about seem morally ambiguous or even turn it the other way. You want everything to be foggy, misty, you want there to not be certainty. As soon as there is certainty that Magius and Rings of Magius are doing evil stuff, you've created so many enemies that are gonna fight you and destroy you. So yeah, it was not even smart, it's not even logical. So, to bring it back to the original point, Toka's plan isn't smart, isn't logical, isn't effective. It doesn't have a good chance of succeeding. So, comparing that to Kyubei's plan is really well thought out. It's really effective at what he does, because if you just have one or two magical girls who get to cosmic levels of karma, you can, apparently save the entire universe almost instantly. So, apparently it's that simple to do. So, Kyubei's plan seems really fucking watertight. And I mean, you can say, oh, but what happened with Madoka? What happened with Homura? Kyubei didn't see that coming, and it kind of foiled his plans, did it? No. Kyubei's plans still went into effect. The entire goal of Kyubei's plans is to save the universe by reducing entropy, and after what Madoka did, entropy was still being reduced. There was still a way for Kyubei to reduce entropy, so his plans are still in motion. After what Homura did, his plans are also still in motion because, well, we don't know for sure, but it seems like some sort of entropy fighting like wraiths or whatever still exists to some degree. We don't know, but it seems like none of the characters, when they had the choice, but like when Madoka was able to, was going against Kyubei's plan. They were still going alongside it, just in a different way. So Kyubei's plans are a lot more logical, better thought out, more efficient. They make sense, and they're going to be successful. Like Toka's plan is just dumb. It's stupid, it doesn't work, it's very obviously evil, it's going to get you killed probably, it's just stupid. And then when Toka does all of that, instead of actually being smart, if Toka was actually smart, she would tell people about what Uasa can do, she would tell people about what Doppels can do more directly, instead of trying to fucking brainwash them. She would be a lot more open to recruiting everyone, and she would be a lot more friendly about it in order to have working relationships. Cooperation. Here's the thing, cooperation is actually really fucking effective. Instead of being a dictator. Because Toka is basically being a fascist dictator, and here's the thing, if people realize you're a fascist dictator, you've got thousands of enemies. Instead of cooperating with everyone and telling people about this, and trying to get people to cooperate on friendly terms, and that would be way more effective. That plan has a way higher success chance. It might take a little bit longer, okay, it might take a little bit longer, but no one in Kamihama is dying. Literally no one in Kamihama is dying. You can say, oh, but people all over the world are dying. But if you actually got the cooperation of every single Magoka in Kamihama, you would maybe even be able to still reach the goal that you're trying to reach at a similar time. Because if you have a lot more people working on it, even if the overall work is slower, by having more people work on it, it might actually end up being just as fast. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach this idea on how Toka could still have plans that are on a logical level, on a smart, intelligent level, more effective and have a higher chance of success. But no, Toka just says, let's kill people, let's brainwash people, let's do evil stuff. I'm gonna kill everyone because regular humans are not as much worth as magical girls. And it's being really evil about it. So yeah, this is the reason why I brought all this up is because, like I said, both the game and the anime is likening Toka to Kyubei. But you cannot take this as saying, Toka does evil stuff, therefore Kyubei is also evil. That is not the case at all. That's complete bullshit, because Toka is a straw man. Toka is a complete straw man of what Kyubei is. And don't let people straw man another character like that. And yeah, that's basically what I say. It might have sounded like I'm defending Kyubei, but the thing is, I don't even see Kyubei as a character. Kyubei is like whatever the fuck. I don't even give a shit about Kyubei. I just don't like it when people completely twist the ideas behind something in writing in such a gratuitous way. But yeah, that was basically what all of the stuff I wanted to talk about with Toka. But yeah, continuing on. We see at this point that the team gets brought over to some gondola where they fall asleep to experience Mifuyu's memories. And in Mifuyu's memories, of course, they happen very similar to they did in the game, but in both of these cases now we actually have completely special new witches. The first witch that we see, the Mikazuki Alpha fight, there's some witch runes around, and the witch runes say Oshiti. So I guess this witch is called Oshiti. And we see that Kanae defends Yachiyo and Mifuyu, and her soul gem shatters. And Mifuyu and Yachiyo then figure out the truth about the location of the soul gem. Like I said, it's very obvious that Iroha and Mifuyu, as they're experiencing these memories, are bystanders that don't have any effect on the memory, instead of like being weirdly inserted into the middle of it. We then get break time. Mokyu is cute. Yachiyo then arrives at the memory museum and confronts Toka, and then she just dashes over to the gondola and doesn't give a shit about the smack loli. And once again, back in the memories, we see that we see the memory of Team Mikazuki Beta, where we see that Mel is having a really lucky day, and she's really lucky, or at least we will see that she's going to get really lucky, while Tsuruno has reached 50th place ranking for Banmansai. Good job on that. So they go out and they fight a witch, as Tsuruno is sadly not able to come along with them, as she has to go to Banmansai. And the witch that they fight is also some witch rune for that. It's Raspberry. So this witch is apparently called Raspberry, and as they fight the witch, they also realize the witch is just too strong and they need to escape, as Yachio basically baits the witch away as the rest escapes. But Mel has to come in and defend Yachio, which causes Mel's soul gem to corrupt, and she witches out. After which the team then confronts Kyubey, and he just does the usual, like, entropy, blub, witches, materials, blah blah, we've already seen it like a billion times. Then the team breaks up off screen. Mifuyu despairs and doppels. Important bit about here is very important, because details are the most important bit about this entire thing. There's some details don't line up here. So Hevelius, which is what her witch is called, is supposed to sprout out of her tongue and arms, and it even makes specific mention that she can't talk and she can't use her arms during this. We can totally see her arms. I mean, she doesn't speak, but we can totally see her arms, so maybe that's kind of not part of this thing anymore, which is weird, because doppels are designed by Inu Curry, who's directing this, so I thought you should have remembered this. Maybe not, who cares. There's also these sort of weird birds flying around. That's also part of the witch, because the witch can summon minions called sugar geese, and sugar geese apparently make you taste sugar and then you get addicted to it. Something like that. That's a bit weird. So then in the memory, Toka appears to Iroha. Now in the game, of course, she appeared to Mifuyu in the actual story, in the actual memories as it happened, but here she appears sort of like outside everything and talks specifically to Iroha, where she mentions like, hey, we've done the doppel system. And she didn't actually do the doppel system herself. Oh god, I should look it up. The thing is, I'm going to talk to you about the wishes that Nemu and Toka have done. Basically, this is also something that goes into likening them to Kyubey, because all three of them together basically tried to substitute Kyubey, which is also why Kyubey gets kicked out of the city. So they're trying to overtake what all the things that Kyubey is supposed to do. So the first thing that I think Ui wanted to wish for, I'm gonna get some of these wishes wrong, but I'm just gonna go very quickly. Ui wanted to gather the despair into herself. Then Toka wanted to be a conduit for that energy and transform it. And I think Nemu wanted to, oh my god, actually expel that energy somehow. Basically, they're just having a pipeline of energy in, energy transform, energy out, something like that. They basically took all of those three onto them. Turns out that the input and the output is having too much trouble keeping up, because there's just too much despair and too much energy. Toka doesn't give a shit though, so he actually is able to control all of that. And that all leads to the whole Ui fucking with Eve and Shitore Egemu and Ui disappearing and all that sort of stuff, because she just couldn't handle it. And Toka is totally fine, while Nemu is also not doing too well, because she just gets too much energy and she can't handle it. The important part of all of this though is Toka says that she created these doppels. She didn't. Actually, it's Ui that actually did, because her part of the wish is kind of what creates the doppels, by taking all of the despair onto herself. So Toka is lying here, but the weird part is she's not really lying, because she doesn't know any better. In her mind, she thinks that it's her that created these doppels. She just doesn't know that that's not quite true. So then moving on, we see that Kaede comforts the sad Arena, and she hints at being in the wings of Magus, which is of course very different from in the game, where in the game Team Kamore is quite happy together for the most part, until now, of course, when they get told about the truth. But nothing really comes of this. I mean, in the next few chapters we see Kaede being sad, and then she's fine again, and that's all that ever comes of this. While here, yeah, Kaede is in the wings of Magus, and she's gonna try to get Rena to join. She's gonna probably try to get Momoko to join, who knows. We then see that then the team arrives in the final part of the lecture, where next episode they might get brainwashed. Maybe like I said, we might still get brainwashing next episode. I hope not. I really hope not. But we'll see. One thing to note is already we saw that when they entered the memories in the game they were forcefully, with much force, into these forceful memories against their will. And they already screamed out like, oh shit, we're gonna get brainwashed, let us out. And they went, no, we're not gonna let you out, we're gonna brainwash you now, go into the memories. While in the anime, they were just like, here's the gondola, and you're gonna see my memories. And they're like, okay, and then they fall asleep and see the memories. And at the end of that, we just see them arrive at the final stage. So it seems they're not quite trapped yet. It seems they're not quite in a position where they can't say no yet. We're gonna have to see that, especially because they're not trapped yet, but Yachiyo is almost arriving at the place they're at. So we're gonna see what happens. Maybe they're just gonna be still asleep. It's possible the next episode starts with them being asleep, and then they get brainwashed while they're asleep. Possible. We're gonna see what happens. More importantly though, something that I wanted to quickly mention is, of course, the backstory dump happens very similar to what it does in the game, but on one part we don't get to see quite as many reactions from all these different characters. We don't get to see all of their viewpoints just yet, but we might get to see in the next one. Like, they might have just offloaded those onto the next episode. And importantly enough, they don't tell the same fucking story twice, and they don't give us all of the bullshit with girl A, B, C, D, E, F. So yeah, it's a lot more streamlined, a lot more nicer progression, smoother progression, but of course we are missing some character viewpoints, which once again, there's so much to explore in all of these stories with all these characters that we just don't have time to do all of that in the anime. And of course, most importantly, at least in my opinion, all of the mentions and fears and foreshadowings of brainwashing have been dialed back really fucking hard. There is still one piece of foreshadowing, which is that the rumor description mentions that if you see these memories, it's going to influence you. But apart from that, there's pretty much nothing else that hints towards this, even though in the game, they've pretty much already told you, dude, they're gonna get brainwashed. So yeah, that was that. I've already went on my entire section about Kyubey and Iroha and Toka and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. See you guys next time, and hit that subscribe button. Yeah.